In this video, we're going to be talking about Metasys alarms and how you can use some of the settings within your system as well as the graphics to help you quickly identify areas where there can be an issue within your system. What we have here is the floor plan for one of our buildings, and I want you to notice a couple of discolorations that we have here. Most of the area, all of the boxes are showing up as just normal. There's no change in color for the various rooms, but we do have this one here that is showing up highlighted as blue. The reason that it is highlighted as blue is because this space is below set point. So this is going to be what we use to talk a little bit about how the alarm configuration is done to make things like this happen. So I'm going to go ahead and click onto this space, and I want you to see a few things. What we have here, we have our zone temperature, and it is clearly below our set point. Our set point is 70, and we should be targeting around that within this box. And I want you to look at what we have here. We have a heating output of 100%, but we still have a discharge temperature of 55 degrees. Now, that is an indication of a problem. What I can also tell you from this page here, we have our hot water system. We're currently running over 100 degrees. So there is clearly an issue with this box. And with it highlighted in blue, as you can even see with that zone temperature, it is clearly showing us that there is an issue here. There's a couple of other things that I want you to pay close attention to, and that is the effective cooling set point and the effective heating set point. And with these two variables, when they are pulled into the alarm configuration, which we're going to look at here shortly, these play a critical role in the function of that alarm. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to override this box unoccupied because I want you to see how that effective cooling and heating gets affected when the box is turned off. So I'm going to unoccupy that box, and you can look at that effective cooling and heating, and it has changed dramatically. It has now gone to 60 for heating and 80 for cooling. And if you look at your zone temperature, it is no longer showing up blue, it is showing up gray. And there again, it is because this box is unoccupied. So let's just go ahead and release this override completely, and actually the box is going to stay unoccupied just because of the current schedule of this box. So we're going to go ahead and bring it back occupied, and we're going to get into that alarm configuration just a little bit to show you guys how this stuff is set up and how it works. But remember, pay close attention to the effective cooling and heating set points. And you've seen when I went back occupied, it changed those values. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look at the zone temperature point. And a quick way to access that point, I simply click on it, and then I click this blue line. It takes me to the network tree, right to that individual control point. And when we look at that control point here, I have my focus tab. I can see my temperature. I have my alarm value here, which says below set point, as well as all of the other information just on this particular point itself. There's my relinquish default and all of the options here. And underneath it here is that point in my network tree, and here is my temperature trend and also the alarm extension. If you were to add those, I've got videos on my channel where I talk about how to add these, but we're going to look into the configuration of the way that you would set one of these alarms up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the alarm extension, and this is where I have all of my configuration for the alarm. And again, you can see that my value is below set point, and that is because of the way that this alarm is configured, and it is showing us that we do have a problem within this box. So I'm going to scroll down to a couple of different things that I want to show you. It is enabled. We have an event that is enabled. You do have a report delay option. This can be handy when you are talking about a binary value like a pump status or something like that. You're going to want a little bit of a delay there. But for a zone temperature, you do not necessarily need a delay in the reporting of that. Now I'm going to scroll on down, and you can see here the set point reference. There's a few different options as far as how you can use these alarm extensions. For example, if I wanted to, I could set a set point reference looking at just the common set point for this box. But there would be a problem with that. My zone temp set point is 70 degrees. I could hypothetically plug that zone temp set point into this block here. The problem with doing it that way is even when that box is unoccupied, if we get out of range of that 70 degrees, it's going to flag an alarm, and I don't want it to do that. If the box is unoccupied, I don't necessarily want it to flag as an alarm anywhere. So what I have is, or what I'm going to use in these is I'm going to use the heating and cooling set point mode. Each of these sections here is a different mode as far as how you can use the alarm extension. Okay, so just remember that. You don't have to fill in, depending on how your system is set up, you may not need to fill in everything. As you see here, we do not have that single point setup mode. We don't have anything filled in here. If I tried to add something in here with all of this other configuration, I'm going to get an error. Now, the way that we're using it is in the heating, cooling, set point mode. Do you remember earlier when I told you to pay attention to that effective cooling and heating set points? This is why. Because what we have here is those values. This alarm is linked to those effective cooling and effective heating set points. The reason that is done is because as the occupancy of that box changes, so does the values that this alarm will highlight a problem. We are also looking at the effective occupancy. You know, that is something to remember as well. You do need to tie it into the effective occupancy, and you need to tell it which mode is in the unoccupied state. And you do all of that from this single block within your system. You know, there is also ways you can set up as warnings. You can give it a little bit of a differential. You don't want to have it down to like a 0 or anything like that. It's going to be going in and out. So give yourself just a little bit of a differential, and so on. You can have a high warning offset, a low warning offset, and so on before it actually goes into alarm. And you would do that from this section here. You see here we also have a few other options. If I wanted to force an acknowledgement, basically I want someone to say, yes, I see this alarm within my system, you know, I can turn that on here. Basically it's going to pop up an alarm in the alarm dashboard. We're not going to dig all the way down to find it here, but it would be in this alarm dashboard somewhere if I decided to go and turn that on, which it currently is on and within the system. You can see here that we have the priority, and this is a very useful thing too, the alarm priority. This one is currently set to 100, okay? And what that means is within my alarm dashboard, the priority of the various alarms, you can see them through here. Within the alarm dashboard, I can actually sort the alarms by priority. And this is something that you have to configure for yourself, is you have to configure each of those alarms or alarm types to have a particular priority. And then when you sort by the priority, you can then rank the alarms. You can then list them based upon what you're seeing. And you can see here we have a few that are at priority 100 and so on. And that is just another way that you can use the alarms within your system. There's a ton of functionality to these as far as giving you notifications and things like that within your system. You can get into some of the higher level alarming to where you're actually sending texts and emails to people, but we're not going to be talking about that in this video. This is one that we're just going to be focusing on how you can use the alarms to highlight either a hot or cold temperature within your system. You know, seeing it right there on your floor plan, that is one way that can help bring your eye to where there are potential problems, but you need to make sure that you have it configured properly. That is just some of the overview of that. And you need to remember that if you do not configure this properly, that it is not going to give you the information that you want. In fact, if you try to add in multiple things like a set point reference here along with all of the other stuff, it's going to cause you problems. It's going to cause you a conflict. If I tried to use both of these within the system while at the same time, I've got to use the correct values. Make sure that you are using the effective heating and cooling as well as the occupancy when you are trying to do a zone temp alarm. That's something to remember. And depending on the system, if you do not have that effective cooling and heating values, if you're dealing with some kind of an older equipment or you don't have the ability to pull those points in for whatever reason, you can use the set point reference, but if you're changing the occupancy state or anything like that, it's going to affect it some. So be aware of that. But guys, this is just a quick overview of how the alarms can be set up. This is, just more information that I wanted to get out to you guys. And again, it is very helpful, and it is one of those things that can make your life a little bit easier when dealing with your system. But guys, if you have any questions, leave those down below. Thanks for watching. Check out the rest of the videos on my channel. Like and share these videos. Check out the affiliate links down below. Help support the channel where you can. And we will see you next time.